Welcome. Welcome to the realm of Millenia. Sorry about that yawn there. I just finished reviewing the other footage, and now I got time today, in the name of the Pajama Bottom Boys, to do the other half of this discussional argument for week 14 Devil's Advocate Hot Take. Yes, the Devil's Advocate Hot Take that you know yourself better than anyone else ever could, DNA included. Right. Yep, Pajama Bottom Boys Day. Pardon. Yeah, did the first half of the discussion, reviewed the footage, and coming back to do the other half so I can properly move on to other stuff for tomorrow. The writing was pretty good today, so, but I digress. In the first half, we talked about, I say we as if there was a discussion. In the first half of the discussion, I spoke on how one perspective to take it, especially from that DNA aspect of you know yourself better and than anyone else ever could, DNA included. I correlated it to children, just to bring home that idea of relevance to the discussion, because there are plenty of people, and you can take the discussion in many ways. You know yourself best, your parents know you best, any kind of adult knows the path you're going down better than you do. You can take it down the route that medical professionals, any kind of professional or expert and stuff, know you better than you do, know you better because they can articulate it, because they this, they that. Whether or not it's actually relatively applicable to you is up for grabs in the debate and discussion, and those are argumentative rebuttals and counter arguments to be had, as well as the final one that I heard when doing certain research into the topic of people making the argument that the certain devil's advocates of conversation, like maybe moi, or skeletons in your closet, the skeletons and demons in the closet and the monsters under the bed, they all know me better than anyone else because I'm a lonely shut-in, right? That has been an argument I've heard before. Like, only the demons know me good because I'm always alone. So there are perspectives to the argument that you can take other than just this one. I chose to go the DNA route in a manner that has both many religions and scientific experimentation and evidence to support you know yourself best, and that is what is best for children, homes, and families and such. Not that I actually believe it or care for it, but it's a perspective I think is poorly articulated and bringing to the attention for the devil's advocate perspective. Right, but all that to readdress and acknowledge that I made a few different analogies in the first half of the video, and most of them were centered on the whole parent-child dynamic and correlating it to video games, and how, because video games and the whole parent-to-child thing is something that is very polarized as well. So just culminating as many polarizing parts in the discussions and argument was rather intentional. So I alluded to your very DNA as a checkpoint and save file each and every day. Every day, more information about you is downloaded into your DNA, like a save file in a game. And when you procreate and reproduce offspring, your saved file of who you once were and the things you were susceptible to and things that you weren't really ready for, your child is going to be that much more prone to those things because of your DNA or because of your partner's DNA. So you and your partner have to be open, honest with each other so that you can do the proper thing in accordance to being open and honest and properly self-reflective for the needs and necessity of actually taking care of and raising your child. So that was pretty much the first half of that discussion and where I went with all that. And the real final takes of that first half was doing this whole spiel on, because that is like scientifically, biologically proven, only to a certain degree, but not definitively, right? Because it has been proven to be true in a number of case studies, but not across the board just yet. That is the whole reason as to why people and children and parent dynamics are getting so further apart from one another, and the children are becoming people the parents don't recognize or properly understand, because the way you raised your child, it was not very self-reflectively smart of you to do it that way. Or you opted to have them raised by a schooling system that you yourself didn't fully flourish in, right? So you're opting for a way that wouldn't have worked for you or didn't work for you, and that's what happened to them. But you're gonna question why they turned out so much different than you. Well, the answer's because of peers around them and stuff. The answers they came to were much different than yours, where you only ended up like you were in the same case because of the peers around you and what your parents did, which you swore you would never be anything like. Well, you treated your child differently, and your child had different peers to fill in certain blanks for them that they internalized because you didn't help internalize the things you would have needed. And that is how you failed them and why they turned out different than you. So much different than you. Because for one reason or another, you didn't properly self-reflect or weren't openly honest in your whole heart of hearts to the person you used to be or needed to be in order to properly educate and train your child to be somewhat like you or better, what you may perceive to be better than you, right? And that is unfortunate. But I got the other half of this argument going forth. Yes, the phrase, takes a village to teach a child. Sure. But again, that is only when the teaching is when and where the parents tend to fall short. Takes a village, right? It takes a village to raise children socially, because you can't raise someone to be social without social interaction. That is correct. But it actually takes the genetic parents in order to raise the individual child that is a carbon copy spliced with a carbon copy of another person. It's two carbon copies of different people being spliced together. That is what children are. So they need their original copies, the parents, to be in their lives in order, and the parents to be self-reflective enough to actually do what is necessary to make necessary changes in the lives of their children. So being laissez-faire, unless you are the type of person who works and flourishes best in laissez-faire, that Being laissez-faire in the life of your child is really not productive. Unless you have always been laissez-faire, it's not really realistic in the life of your child. So, yeah. Takes a village to teach a child, sure. But that's only when the teaching of the parents falls short. Anyone can conquer, back to video game analysis, anyone can conquer a map with a great team, #village, but only great players can claim achievements and earn and develop skills and admiration for doing things on their own. Yes, you can make the claims that it takes a village to raise a child, but then why would you as a parent ever get respect or get acknowledgement for the things other people did? Even a person who doesn't understand how to play a violent game like a PUBG or Fortnite, even a person who doesn't know how to play can sit in one spot, do nothing, and win the entire game because they had an awesome team. It takes awesome players, it takes awesome parents on their stuff, doing their part and doing their roles as parents to raise an awesome child. If the parents deserve credit where credit is due, the parents had to be involved. Parents aren't involved, you just flip the coin up in the air. No one's gonna think, no reasonable, rational people are going to think, oh, because the school did great with them, we're going to give you praise in place of the school. We're going to give you all the honor and glory where and when the village took over. It takes a village to raise a child socially, because socializing is a group effort. But as far as actual individual case by case, that was always intended and should have been done by the parents. That's kind of like the take there, because you know yourself best. So sure, a village can figure it out and make it happen, but it would have been and should have been easier from you who know yourself and best and better than anyone ever could. Right? Next point. Only those actually doing their part to legitimately fill in the blanks and teach those life lessons for their own children in the ways they themselves recognize they'd have needed going in are actually considered parenting right. We can talk down about the bum daddies and the mummies, but until everyone gets to firing up themselves and fixing themselves honestly and openly, there's no saving the next generation from the worst parts of the saved game parents have left for their children. Because again, if you were in some deep shush, especially mentally, emotionally, physically, if you were in some deep shush around the time that you procreated with another human being and you never got over it until maybe after the birth or after this and after they were born, if you never got over it until after that, you need to also be there and be whatever your child needs or is bound to need in order to get over that problem, because it's still in their DNA to need to have that fixed in their life. Oh my gosh, I never would have thought my daughter of all the people would have to go through a situation like the one I lived, I thought I raised her so that she'd never have to suffer that a day in her life. Well, unfortunately, because you didn't fix it before you had even got pregnant, or that just meant that it was already guaranteed that your daughter would have had to suffer with a few of these problems. So you tried to fix and prevent an issue that you already had. Well, newsflash, you can't take preventative measures for mold when there's already mold in the wall. That's kind of how it works. You have to fix the mold and then repair out from there. Because if you do all these preventative measures, all you're really doing is covering up the mold underneath to the point where you're never going to notice until everything is rotting and falling off the walls. Until people have been knocked unconscious from the mold, no one can see until it's so far spread that the house is condemned, right? I don't know how she could ever get like this. We put mold repellent on every wall. There was like 1 million coats. Well, it seems there was mold on underneath the very first layer of that mold repellent. So the mold just spread around from the inside out because you never actually addressed, or God forbid, you never noticed the mold that you made, mold on the wooden planks you made the house out of. So we're here now, right? And that's basically what's kind of happening when people aren't able to self-reflect on who they were and what they were before getting children involved, which is why it's always the children that suffer from any problems and going on with the parents. Mommy and daddy issues, mommy hates daddy, daddy hates mommy, whatever situation it is, I don't care, right? It's just something you yourselves have to come to terms with for the sake of the child. You have to be able to fix your own issues or be able to address them openly, honestly, in a proper self-reflective way that you would allow you to even give your child answers. The answers they would need, maybe not the ones they want, but the answers they need so that they actually have a hope of being able to fix the problem. Only those actually doing their part. Where again, that's the whole real idea and concept behind generational curses, because what happens in your life, your child will be that much more prone to it. If I randomly get addicted to drugs and alcohol today and I never get over it, but I have 2 kids, I start procreating and get kids to the week after I just got addicted to alcohol, the likelihood that my child is going to be just as much of an addict that can't control it is that much higher from the very first sip of alcohol they take. If I am a recovering alcoholic, they'll be on the route of recovery, but they'll still have that second generational curse of potentially getting heavily addicted to alcohol, because they have the DNA memory of a recovering alcoholic. Vice, had I entirely gotten over alcohol in the addictive sense to where I could once again drink alcohol and it not negatively affect me, and then had children, my children would be able to have a fresher start. So it's a big deal on what you get over or in the life you're living when you have children. Or at the bare minimum, being able to self-reflect on who you were and where you were at, honestly, when you are going about educating and correcting your offspring. That is supported by religious text and supported by scientific findings. It's just facts. Again, with the scientific proof, the very last one would be all the discoveries in video games. There are 2 points to this, really, but the discoveries, R&D departments and news outlets and actual Harvard experimentations have come to in regards to video games is where I really drew the analogy for this argument from, because saved feature analogy is the whole legacy that people are not aware they're talking about when it comes to genetic inheritances. That is a part of it. It's that legacy being passed on generation after generation. Science verifies the religious tie-ins of us together, parent to offspring, parent to child, ancestor to, and predecessors, and so on. Science verifies the religious beliefs of legacy and blood that connects us, not just by blood, but by purpose and experience, responsibilities and such, kept and saved as sacred deep down in the blood on that microscopic level that we can't necessarily see with our eyes. It is kept sacred and saved like a saved feature or a saved file in a video game, deep down in our blood, not just by blood, but through the blood. The blood of Christ Jesus, believe him or don't. It ties us all together through legacy, right? It's our DNA's saved progress that is the very legacy that we must nurture and protect, and that we find the certain instinctive, innate desire to be responsible and protective over, because it's blood is thicker than water. It's because of that whole concept and idea of the saved file. And it's pretty true on the aspect of, I'm gonna make yet another one, video gamers, or be you a heavy video gamer or a mild video gamer. Most things about people who enjoy video games of any type, something that you will despise and disdain against is people deleting your saved game, your saved files, right? And legacy is all about that saved data and the progress you're making on your game. If anyone ever deletes your game and your files, you will go ballistic. If someone factory resets your phone that you're heavily invested in, your entire life's basically on the phone, you are going to go ballistic, because it's got all your stuff in there saved. Who needs to memorize all their stuff when it's in your phone? Who would ever want to restart a game they're making so much progress on, a game they almost completed, a game where they done all these achievements and got recognized? Who wants to delete and restart a game that they made in-game purchases for? Like, what are we talking about? So of course, parents are naturally protective over their children. Of course, parents tend to nurture, sometimes excessively love on and adore and idolize their children, because if life emulates other aspects of life, that data, that DNA, that saved file is really impactful to the people who did things to make that kind of progress. So many of us would be ready to unalive people for that, much like a mother and a father would fight to the death for their children. And then the very last point here is that games aren't making kids violent. There was a whole stretch, I'm pretty sure it was like 3-month run of news channels bashing how games were making children more and more violent as the years went by. I was like, we've already proven this. Games aren't actually making the kids more violent. It's that innate model. But the thing that news articles never got to and put the dots together is that it's not the games making the people violent. No, it's that innate model of real life. It's the very realism being projected accidentally by the video games that makes it easier to draw out violent tendencies, that those violent tendencies from the attachment people are gaining to those very same video games, right? Because those who care for betterment or even for competitive natures and focus and desires of progress and completion in themselves will desire the betterment and completion and the competitiveness of the games. They'd want to save their files, and they'll go ballistic when someone intentionally or sometimes even unintentionally will set people off, trigger them, and make them very adamant when people delete their files. You stole my baby! That video game was my life! I'm going to end you! It's just a video game, dude. Yeah, a video game with 98% completion. I had over 3,000 hours into that game, dude. Unbelievable. Right? People be tripping. It's only a video game. I'll be honest, I got like that a lot before I got into mostly playing just mobile games. I got like that, but that was pretty a short period of my life because I've always sucked at video games, so I never could be all that bothered by my saved files getting deleted, because I could probably do better if I started over from zero. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like there was nothing too major that I'd have to concern myself with if the entire file got deleted. It's probably for the best. It was the Lord's will and way working in my life. I don't care. We don't care. We don't care. So, yeah. Those are the last few talking points for it. You know yourself better than anyone else ever could, DNA included, so it is probably for the best that you go ahead and teach your own DNA rather than settle for the less than 35% of the day that public and private schools will end up leaving you with, honestly. Because excuse me, it's probably for the best that you go about teaching your own children your own DNA, your own selves, rather than settling for the very little time that the public schooling system is going to leave you to even interact with your children, let alone instill other values and teach them. Parents in this need to be, I know because of the economy and this and that, I understand it. Economy, inflation, wars, all that is really real stuff you have to be concerned about and worry about. But when you allow those things to take precedence over your child, that is going to be the ultimate end-all be-all reason that your child may very much be against you when they actually grow up to be their own person. They may or may not necessarily be any better than you. Low-key just might turn out to be a far worse piece of trash than you. The only way to prevent that is by being open and honest with yourself, because only you know yourself better than anyone else could, and you need to use that to your advantage and for your child's advantage by being self-reflective enough to understand not your child's perspective, but your own perspective from the standpoint of if you were your child, because you quite literally are. So I feel like I'm about to digress, so I'm gonna cut the conversation here. Hope you enjoyed what I had to talk about. If you like or agree with anything I had to say and share for the argument this week of week 14 Devil's Advocate hot take, go ahead, like the video or click that thumbs up button to show that you agree. Or go ahead in the comment section down below and let me know your questions, comments, concerns. By golly. Let me know your questions, comments, concerns, and so on and so forth.
I didn't look up the spot. I checked the spot.
Share the video for more exposure, or subscribe if you feel like, or don't if you don't. Goodbye.